welcome to another week of We Hate Fantasy Football. It is the Week 6 recap for crazy MFJR. I am the captain, and we're going to go ahead and take a look back at last week, see how everybody did.
Awesome.
It was kind of an interesting week.
I thought so.
Well, not a great week.
Yes, it was.
All right. For some of us, it was a great week. For others, we just continue on the doldrums of fantasy football and just pretend that we care. Throw out some text messages and say, hey, I might win this week. You get excited, and then it just doesn't happen again.
I'm not familiar with that feeling.
Yeah, I know. We had I saw a lot of low scores this week. Nobody hit that 150 mark.
No.
You see anything interesting?
Well, nobody hit 150, but I didn't think overall it was that low. Kevin had a bad week, and I think that's what kind of skewed the overall numbers. He wasn't hitting his normal overall production. Gus's team just hasn't been very good, seeing that Aaron Rodgers hasn't been particularly good. So his overall scores consistently have been a little bit lower than what you might expect.
Well, I think, with Gus, he's kind of going with what Aaron Rodgers does, and Aaron Rodgers hasn't been doing anything, really.
No, surprisingly.
Like in the past, Aaron Rodgers has been, if it was primetime game, he was money.
Yep.
If it was a home game, he was money.
Yep.
And not so much this year.
No.
And kind of last year, too. Maybe Rodgers on a decline.
It could be. I don't know if it's personal issues or it's The Bachelor, his brother on The Bachelor, or who knows what's going on. But whatever.
He's not living up to his 6th-round pick.
Oh, well, that might be it. So, Ryan and Tom put up their normal under 100 points. So that was kind of average. And your score was down a little bit. Instead of your normal 111 or 112, you scored 110.
I didn't live up to the hype.
No, but, I think I had 130 or something like that. And then Jeff had 140.
Yeah.
So, we did have some high scores. They just weren't super high. So it was a little low, but overall I don't think it was, that low.
So Tom's continuing to bring down whoever he's playing. Another week where the guy he plays scored under 100. In 4 of the 6 weeks that we played so far this year, Tom has had his opponent scored less than 100 points, or less than 115, which is not great. I mean,
maybe average at best.
But he still continues to lose each of those games. So that's awesome. In fact, this week, Tom had a chance. He was going into Monday night. Yeah, he was real excited. He'd say, do you think David Johnson? He's going to 18, maybe 19. Yeah, it took him it took David Johnson 2 plays to beat him.
It was all over.
Yeah, it was good times.
Shows David Johnson's pretty good.
Yeah, and also the Jets are really bad.
No, that's part of it.
The Jets.
How are you enjoying football this year? Not even just fantasy.
I have watched the Dodgers.
Good choice.
What else? Lisa lost Big Ben this week.
Yep.
She lost him to a meniscus tear.
Yep.
So Lisa was, not only does Lisa just love Big Ben, she loves her some Big Ben. Now they have something in common.
They both had meniscus tears.
Yeah, so he's going to be back in 2 weeks. It took her 3 years to recover, I think, is what I was told. But it looks like it's going to take Big Ben just maybe a couple of weeks to come back. The initial reports were 4 to 6. Now he's saying he'll be ready for week 9.
Yeah. He's a tough guy.
Yeah, he'll be back and being his normal, terrible self again.
We can only hope.
But my favorite part of the week, by far, was the Lisa versus Josh matchup.
That's one of my favorite parts of the week, too.
Not the outcome necessarily was my favorite, but the matchup itself, because we were out there on Tom's on Sunday watching the Sunday night game, watching the Dodger game.
Yep. Well, we were watching the Dodger game.
Yes, we were watching the Dodger game.
Lisa was about 8 feet away watching the Sunday night game. And so all we could hear in the other room was, yeah, Lamar Miller! And all I was doing was shaking my head and going, oh, no, this is terrible. Lamar Miller had the game of the week, the game of the season, and maybe the game of his life. Holy moly, that guy was good, but didn't matter.
Wasn't enough. Good old John Brown.
Arizona defense, greater than John Brown.
I'd like to point out that Kevin this week scored less than 100 points for the second time this season. He is the number 1, number 2 ranked whatever blah. I've only scored less than 100 one time.
Okay.
Kevin's done it twice.
Okay. How many times have I scored less than
I
100?
don't care. All right. Moving forward, let's take a look at the current standings.
Okay.
Do you see anything interesting with the standings?
Well, we're still pretty close. There's 3 teams at 4-2, and 3 teams at 3-3. So 6 teams still really in the hunt. Kevin's leading the charge at 5-1 still, even after his first loss this season. 3 teams that are 2-4 and 1-5, but the majority of the league is still right kind of close together, tied up. So 1 win, 1 loss here and there, anything can really happen. Nobody's really too far ahead. Nobody's too far behind in that group. And then we're all aiming at Kevin, who's 1 game better than 3 of us and only 2 games better than the other 3. So there's 6 teams that are only 2 games behind the number 1 placed guy. So nobody's really, really awful. I guess if you consider 1-5 still there, but besides that, nobody's really, really terrible, and there's still some room to go.
Yeah, Kevin tried to run away with it, but he's starting to relinquish his lead a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's still interesting, still close. There's going to be a couple of teams at the end of the year that did really well, but they're going to be left out.
Yep.
Thanks to me and Tom.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to our rankings for the week. Jordan, take it away.
Guys, thanks so much for having me back on I Hate Fantasy Football, and we are back for the Week 7 rankings. And we have a new number 1. Now, despite Odell Beckham going off for over 32 points and Ezekiel Elliott going over 17, Josh needed an injury from Ben Roethlisberger to beat Lisa this week in a matchup that went down to the last few minutes of Monday night's game. Now, this week, Josh goes up against Kevin, who's coming off his first loss. But the real question is, what is going on with your hair here? All right, number 2. Now, Kevin, just like WrestleMania 30 and the Undertaker streak, all good things must come to an end. And this week, you suffered your first defeat. Now, DeMarco Murray was the lone running back, wide receiver, or tight end that put up double digits this week. But don't worry, DeMarco Murray's got a great matchup this week in Week 7. Also, your pickup of Stephon Diggs from the waiver wire was a great pickup and should really help your wide receivers immediately. All right, number 3, Power and Glory. Now, although A.J. Green outspointed Zach Miller and Isaiah Crowell this week, Power and Glory got the win. He had great performances from Tom Brady, James White, and Terrence West. That really led him to the victory this week. But also, Adam Vinatieri now has double digits in 5 out of the first 6 games. Unfortunately, I am now in the unenviable spot of having to go up against Keidel in a rematch of last year's finals. All right, number 4, the dudes abide. Now, over 56% of Jeff's points last week came from that Carolina versus New Orleans game. Cam Newton is on his bye this week, but unfortunately, so is Jeff's backup, Dak Prescott. Now, Jeff picked up Marcus Mariota this week, who's put up over 30 points in the last 2 weeks. Now, Brandon Cooks, he's a good wide receiver, but Jeff needs another wide receiver. All right, number 5, the Dragon Pirates. Now, no defense, no problem for Jordan. This team is on a roll. They've got the number 1 QB, the number 1 wide receiver, and the number 1 defense, and they have the number 2 running back right now. In fact, all of Jordan's wide receivers are all top tier. Now, Keidel's only 1 game behind in his division, and he's really ready to kind of make that leap. I would be afraid of Keidel if I was facing him in December, and honestly, I'm a little nervous already. So, number 6, now, with Aaron Rodgers kind of appearing as a mere mortal, Gus has to be worried about his Green Bay heavy offense. Now, Gronk was outstanding, but LeGarrette Blount, was fortunate to have a garbage time TD. Now, maybe Jameis Winston or Colin Kaepernick can help you out this week, but you're going up against Darren, who's coming off a 2-game losing streak. All right, number 7, Anastasia Beaverhausen. Now, Lisa had a great opportunity to make a statement and beat Josh. It's been a few weeks since we've had bad Big Ben, and the injury-prone Roethlisberger, he went down, and now looks like he's going to be out for 4 to 6 more weeks. Now, Derek Carr is a fine backup, but Lisa will need Antonio Brown and Lamar Miller to have strong weeks if she looks to get the job done. Now, number 8, Kalos Ryhorse. Now, David Johnson accounted for over 34% of Ryan's total points this week, and was the only player that had over 13 points on his team. He might just be the best player in the NFL. Now, David Johnson, where the fact that he's a late round keeper for Ryan over the next few years is going to be great for years to come for Ryan, but bad for everybody else. Now, finally, the addition of Andy Dalton last week may improve his quarterback play as Blake Bortles continues to struggle and had a few key turnovers. All right, number 9, O Captain, my captain. Now, Darren started out on Sunday with a .3 lead and an extra player. Drew Brees outperformed Tom Brady, but the remainder of his team really struggled. Now, Darren he said that he's going to give up on the season and all his players are up for trade, but Darren made some big acquisitions today with Golden Tate and Nal Davis and spent a lot of budget on them. Finally, Tom's team, period. All right, now Tom has been inactive on the waiver wire, but that has not improved his record. Over half of Tom's starters in Week 7 will be from pickups. Now, Tom has a top QB in Matthew Stafford, but none of his other players cracked the top 10, except for Josh Lambo, who he picked up today. Now, Tom's got a winnable matchup, but he's got to get good performances from at least Todd Gurley and one of his wide receivers if he wants to beat Jeff. Now, those are the rankings, and we will see you next week.
Oh my gosh. What an amazing set of rankings that was.
I think so.
Besides who went, I mean, I had to watch it a second time just to see where everyone was because I spent the entire time cracking up at the pictures that we just saw.
What's wrong with my hair?
It was beautiful, isn't it? Oh my gosh. I want to start by just commenting on the rankings of the pictures.
Yep.
Because I feel like if we were ranking those pictures that we just saw, I think Gus would be number 1.
Gus has to be number 1.
Jordan Keitel number 2.
Oh, definitely. Right there. Yep.
Wahlberg, I don't remember being fat, but apparently he was when he was a freshman. Oh my gosh. Amazing.
It's good stuff, Jordy. Thank you.
Okay, as far as the rankings go, I'm a little disappointed. I'm not a fan of being ninth still. I know that Ryan is 3-3 and I'm 1-5, but I'm better than him and I should be ranked above him. And it's gonna be another maybe week, maybe 2 before I overtake Lisa. I am gunning for the top 6, I guess it'll be top 7 of our rankings. It's going to happen.
I stopped watching after number 1. He got that part right, and then I was kind of done.
All right, that'll do it for our Week 6 recap for Crazy MFJR.
Oh.
I am the captain, and we will see you next time.
Bye. Oh.